Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an IFBB Pro bodybuilder. Today's guest is Stephen Didoshak. Stephen, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure, my man. So like we kind of just said before I hit record, this is a long time coming. I've been after you for quite a while. So thank you so much for taking some time today to chat with myself and all of the followers and the subscribers. So I got a question here to kind of start things off, Stephen. Who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
Honestly, since day one, it's been Phil Heath is somebody who has looked up to.
And so why Phil Heath? Why has he kind of been number one since the beginning?
I don't know. It's just his look to me was so appealing. He was so bubbly in 3D, and years before he won his first Olympia, I just said, like, that is like the most pleasing physique to look at.
For sure.
So that's kind of what I strive to kind of what direction I'd like to go.
Now just to kind of look at your own physique, obviously Phil's nickname is the gift, and he's got that structure and everything. Like you said, that bubbly muscle. Is that something in terms of like just your own structure? Do you feel like that's something maybe that you have as like a gift or maybe a natural knack? Is that structure kind of like Phil or not?
Maybe not on the same level, but I do feel I have a bit of a bubbly 3D look. So I do, not to compare myself with him, but I do feel I am gifted in that way.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So tell us, Stephen, at what age did you start lifting weights? And then why did you start lifting weights at that age?
I'm going to have to go back to 2007. I graduated in 2005, and I would probably spend my lunch hours just like doing some arms and stuff like that in the gym. And I was honestly like the smallest kid in grade 12. I played competitive hockey. As soon as I graduated, I got my first gym membership and stopped playing hockey because I just fell in love with what I could see the human body that was able to do. And then from there, I just saw my body like transformed so fast. So I kind of just said, you know what, I'm going to ride this and see what we can do. So I became a doorman at a nightclub not far from here. And this is well before competing. And one of the other doormen, Richie Chan, a good buddy of mine, said, hey, you'd actually be a pretty good competitor. You should do a show. And at this point, I've never seen a show. I had no idea what to expect or anything like that. So one night before work, we went down to the BC provincials and watched the show. And the middleweights came out, and he's like, so this would ideally be the weight class you would be in. And seeing them all tanned up and super shredded and dehydrated, I was just like, there's no way I could look like this. He's like, it takes a lot of time, but he's like, you could do it. So I kind of signed on under his belt, and he guided me to my first show, which was the Western Canadians in Kelowna at the time. And this was in 2010. So I'd probably been training for 2 years consistently. And I weighed about 163 pounds and ended up winning the middleweight division out of 20 guys. And when I won, I had like a stone cold look on my face. I didn't strike a pose. I had no idea. But the experience from that show was like, that's it. I'm going to take this and run with it.
Now, taking a step back for a minute, and we're going to get into your childhood a little bit more here in a minute, but how did you kind of first get exposed to lifting weights? Because you said you played hockey and then you got a gym membership, like, you know, when you were done playing hockey, like, did you see like a bodybuilding magazine? How did you even know kind of about the gym or lifting weights, or were you exposed through sport, through hockey?
So I was exposed at a very young age. I probably didn't even know that it was like bodybuilding or that these guys did shows, but I have a brother and sister, and we were enrolled in every sport we wanted to play. So my dad was actually out of town working a lot for us kids to be able to do what we were doing at the time. So my mom was taking us everywhere with her. So she would take us to the grocery store, and she would take us to the magazine area, sit us down. She would do her aisle runs, and then halfway through she would grab us, and she looked at me one day, and I was looking at this magazine, and I actually think it was like Jay Cutler on the front, possibly. And she was like, put that fucking thing down. That's disgusting. And I was just like, this is a human being. Like, people can look like this. And she was like, that's disgusting. But honestly, to this day, she's never missed a show. She's been beside me my whole way. She is like my number one. So it's actually pretty cool, from what caught my eye to the trouble that she gave me for always looking at these magazines, to being to all my shows and supporting me and understanding what I'm doing.
Yeah, very cool, man. I love that. Now, I want to, before we kind of get more into the bodybuilding stuff, Steven, I want to kind of like get just a little bit more of your backstory. So obviously you grew up in Canada, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then why don't you talk about some more of the sports that you played? Just talk about your younger years a little bit. You mentioned you had some siblings, but what was life like for you growing up? Talk about, again, the sports and up to about high school, and then we'll kind of transition from there.
Okay. In regards to sports, I played baseball, soccer. Those are my first two sports I was playing. I always wanted to play hockey, but the wait list in Vancouver, Coquitlam area that I lived in, was like crazy. It was like years waiting list. So I was playing soccer until I could get in, and actually excelled in both sports. So there came a point where I got a spot to play hockey, and I said, okay, I got to ditch one of these. So I think I let go of baseball, started playing hockey, and then picked up pretty quick. I started playing rep hockey, got rid of soccer at a young age. And I played very competitive hockey growing up my whole entire life, right through to grade 12. And then after that, it became like a juvenile hockey, which is like, you're not going anywhere at that point. We were just playing with the boys, having fun. But we had some good teams. It was a lot of fun, very competitive. And I was always the smallest guy on the team, like super small. But if you ask anybody who I know, my coaches, my uncles, my dad, I always played a lot bigger than I actually was. They gave me the nickname like Scott Stevens. I was a defenseman, believe it or not. If you were coming up the red line with your head down, there's a good chance I was going to take it off.
I love that. Now, what type of an influence did your parents have on you, or maybe what did they kind of instill in you? Was it like work ethic? You know, did your mom or your dad like always say something to you that kind of still sticks with you today? Like what was it that your parents kind of gave you or instilled in you, if you don't mind?
Just whatever that we wanted to do in life, just make sure that we're having fun with it. If there was a sport that we felt pressured that they wanted us to do, to speak up. I mean, they didn't want to waste their money, but they wanted to see their kids genuinely happy. And so they gave us everything we ever wanted. We always had our needs and our wants, but there's a fine line between that.
Now, you've brought up a couple of times that you said, like on the hockey team, you were the smallest guy, you know, in the 12th grade, you're the smallest guy. Did that have any, you know, effect on you, like mentally, or when you were growing up? Did you get picked on? Did that kind of like put a chip on your shoulder or have any effect on you at all, or not really?
I wouldn't say I was picked on, because I hung out with the big group in school and it was all the hockey guys, but I am definitely a very humble, quiet person that I tend to keep to myself. So if something was said to me, I would just kind of like put my head down and walk away, or I wasn't one to stand up for myself because I didn't want the attention of anything going on. I would just kind of sit there and take it.
And does that come from one of your parents, or is that something that you just kind of were naturally a little bit more quiet? How did you kind of come to be that way?
I think that just came naturally, because compared to my brother and my sister, I'm totally different.
Are you the middle child then, or not?
I'm the middle child. I have an
Okay.
older sister and a younger brother.
That makes sense. That makes sense a little bit there. So, okay, awesome. Now, one last question kind of about childhood, and then we'll kind of move on. But outside of like your parents, was there like another adult or like a coach, somebody, a teacher maybe that had a really big influence or impact on your life, or not really?
Through my high school ages, not really.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's start transitioning then into kind of like post high school. So you graduated in 2007, you said, and that's kind of when you started getting into lifting weights. What did you kind of want to do with your life though? Like when you were in high school, did you think about a career or a job, and how did you kind of pursue that or not pursue that after you graduated from high school?
So I graduated in 2005, but I didn't start training till 2007.
Okay.
So graduating out here, you actually have to write an essay of some sort of career that you would love to do. I struggled through school. I had a hard time understanding things, writing things, all that kind of stuff. But my mom worked at the fire department. I loved it. She would take us in there. If there was a call, we'd go on the trucks, watch them put out the fires. That to me was like the coolest thing ever. So I always wanted to be a fireman. And it is not easy to become a fireman out here. So my mom knows how quiet I am. And she was just like, Steven, it is like extremely hard to get in. There's a lot of schooling. And she didn't want to like tell me I couldn't do it, but I think she was just kind of giving me a fair warning, like, this is not easy. And I know going through school, it wasn't hard. So she helped me with my essay, even though it was a final exam essay, she helped me with it. And I think the biggest thing from that was she didn't want to see me fail. So leading to my first bodybuilding show, actually before that, sorry, we actually had to present this essay in front of the class, just like a rough idea of what you want to do and why you want to do it. And I actually said I didn't do it because I'm not somebody who's going to stand in front of the class and present something, because I got 30 other people's attention driven to me. And I was either sick, which I wasn't, or I didn't do my homework, which I did. So leading to my first show in Kelowna in 2010, all my friends came up. It was about a 4-hour drive to this venue. My parents came up because they watched me prep. They're like, we're not going to miss this. We got to watch this. So all said and done, the show went extremely well. I won. And I came out and my mom was like, you did it. And she was like, me and your dad had a feeling that you just weren't going to come out. And I was like, well, why? Like, I just trained for a year. She was like, Steven, you wouldn't even go in front of a class and present a project. And now you're walking out in a small pair of trunks in front of thousands of people. And I said, once these guys started walking out there, I actually went through my head like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I wearing? But it was like, I walked out, the lights were super bright. I couldn't see anybody in the audience. I just did my thing. And shortly after that, she was like, I kind of doubted you. You could be anything you wanted in the world. You could have been a doctor. And I just said, I didn't want to be a doctor. I want to be a bodybuilder.
I absolutely love that, man. So now you said, I think after high school, when we were talking about that a few minutes ago, that you were like a doorman at like a club or something. Is that kind of how you paid the bills then post high school?
Yeah, I actually had 2 jobs right out of high school. One was being full-time. I was actually building my boss's house. So I was doing construction, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I was at the nightclubs. So we all know bodybuilding's not cheap. So I had to double down.
Do you have a story from the nightclub days that sticks out in your mind that you want to share with us or not?
You know what? There's nothing too crazy. I mean, there's always a rough crowd, but being the soft-spoken person I am, if there's ever something going on, I was just like, I didn't want to kick people out. I didn't want to ruin people's night. I just said, guys, let's not do this. And because I didn't want to fight. So I said, you guys go one way, you guys go the other way. If someone's too drunk, I get him some water. Like, I'm not your typical guy that just wants to boot somebody out and ruin your night. Let's all get along and have a good time. So that was like my way of going through the nights. And I think there might have only been 2 or 3 fights within the 3 years I was working there. So I feel I did a good job.
Yeah. Sounds like you're the peacemaker, and that's always a good thing. So now I want to go back to your first competition, right? because I love, and I'm very thankful that you just shared that story about, you did this project or whatever. And then, you said you didn't because you didn't want to get in front of your classmates. And then you're standing in front of thousands of people or hundreds of people for your first bodybuilding competition. Do you feel like bodybuilding, when you started to compete, did that kind of give you a little bit of an identity? And did that kind of give you a little bit of like a breakout in terms of like maybe that shell that you were in when you were younger, or not so much?
In a way it did. I think out of the group of friends, I was the only one that actually competed. There was a couple of us that would train regularly, but in regards of coming down to a show and dieting the way we do, I was the only one that kind of went through with it. And I excelled with it. So these guys would be like, everybody's going out. I said, guys, I'm not coming out. I can't do it. And it took me away from that avenue of life, which obviously I had my fun in my time, but I just, that wasn't really my scene. I'm not a big drinker, not like that. But I think with the bodybuilding thing, everybody knew like Dido, he's the bodybuilder in town. He's jacked. Even though I was like 170 pounds, 165 pounds, it was cool because they were watching me transform, and it was like, holy cow, like this guy's doing it.
Now, who like obviously, growing up, you and I are actually right around the same age. I graduated high school in 2006, so we're probably either the same age or close to it. But I know like Frank McGrath, he was like, when I was, in my teens, like he was everywhere in the magazines. He was a huge, influence on me actually, in the whole animal kind of vibe and that whole family back in the day. Who I'm sure Frank maybe was some sort of influence on you, maybe from afar, but were there some other Canadian bodybuilders, whether we would know of them or not, that maybe had some influence on you in those earlier days, like with your training, or not really?
Not really. And it's funny you bring up Frank, because when I was younger, his animal ads were like, they were everywhere. And I can remember them like it was yesterday. So I guess in a way, like seeing his ads and how vascular and freaky he was, it was cool to see.
For sure. Now you knew that he was from Canada, like when you saw him in the magazines, didn't you, or not at that time?
I did know he was Canadian. Yeah.
Cool. Now, how did you, Steven, then once you started to really get into bodybuilding, did you have a coach for that first competition? And then how did you kind of learn how to like bodybuild as we know it in terms of like the training style, or did you just kind of learn that on your own?
The training was all me in the gym doing my thing. And I was just having fun with it. I had a regular bro split. In regards of coaching, my first coach was Richie Chan, and he was the doorman with me at the nightclub at the time. So he prepped me for my first show. And when I won that show, we actually decided to do the show the following year, which qualifies you for the BC provincials, which at that point, my cousin Grant took over, who lives in Winnipeg. So he had a little bit more knowledge at the time. So I said, okay, I'm going into a bigger show. I need to like be a little bit more structured and take this more serious now that we're going to a provincial level. So he kind of stepped in and really structured things with my training and my diet. But in regards of training, I've always done my own thing, and I still do my own thing. As long as I'm having fun in the gym, that's what matters to me.
Very cool. Now, why don't you, since we're kind of on the training topic, before we kind of get into more of your competition history, why don't we, if you don't mind, just talk about how has your training evolved over the years, if it has much, and then what's kind of your training split? What does your training look like kind of current day as you're in this stage of your bodybuilding career?
So my training split has literally been the same since I started. I used to train 6 days a week. It wasn't until I was being coached by Dorian a couple of years ago, we actually scaled it down to 5 days a week. And that's when I started seeing my body kind of taking off. Monday, chest and buys. Tuesday, back and tries. Wednesday was a full quad day. And then back in the day, Thursday would either be arms or shoulders. Then Friday would be arms or shoulders. But currently my Thursday is now a rest day, doing shoulders and arms on Friday, and then hamstrings, glutes on Saturday, resting on Sunday. And I feel that's most people's split.
Have you, so when Dorian had you kind of scale things back from 6 days a week of training to 5, did you see a pretty big improvement in terms of your physique? Or do you feel like it wasn't that big of a change when you took that extra day off from training?
It was a big change. I had 3 jobs at the time. I guess I was getting run down, but what I learned was rest, how important rest is. And it actually, I feel once I took that second day off, and don't get me wrong, every now and then I still will do a 6-day, maybe I'll hit arms or something like that. But the 5-day split for me is exactly what I needed.
Now now that you're an IFBB Pro, what's your focus in terms of the body part or body parts that you are really trying to kind of like refine, dial in, grow? I mean, as bodybuilders, we kind of always want to get bigger to a certain extent. But is there kind of a main focus with your training right now in terms of some body parts that you're trying to bring up? And if so, which ones or which one?
My biggest thing that I've been trying to bring up is my chest. And that's because my shoulders have always been so dominant. It makes my chest look smaller than it really is. So that has been something I've worked on for the last year, especially this year. My Friday shoulder day has now been changed to alternating shoulders to chest, just to double it up. And my biggest thing is keeping my waistline tight. I'd like bigger legs, more dense back, and a bigger chest.
So everything except for shoulders, right?
Yeah, of course. Keep my waist tight.
Yeah. Now, in regards to chest, because people kind of like to hear this stuff from IFBB pros, in terms of chest, what have you kind of found in terms of movements has maybe helped you kind of with that growth or hypertrophy?
For me, because my shoulders are so dominant, they tend to kind of roll in when I'm pressing. And that's just a bad habit that I've gained over the years. So I actually had to scale back in weight. Maybe doing like a proper warm up, like getting my chest fired up, activating properly prior to going to my workout, and just really connecting with the weights with my chest versus just trying to push an abundant amount of weight. So for me, I think just scaling back on the weight just to start connecting before we start pushing the weight again, it's actually helped me a lot.
And is that kind of like, just generally speaking, in terms of your training, do you really focus on that mind to muscle connection, or are you kind of like a heavier weight, just kind of like grind it out type of a bodybuilder?
Mind muscle connection. I'm even like during my sets, my eyes are usually closed, just trying to like imagine like what's going on. But I also have my grueling sets where it gets ugly and I'm just pushing, and you do need those hardworking sets. So
for sure. Awesome. Okay, so let's take a step back, Stephen, into kind of like your competition. We kind of left off with your second competition. Why don't you talk about that? And then why don't you just kind of unpack your competition history a little bit? Maybe just touch on some of the highlights, and then let's get to when you turned pro last year. Okay.
Of course. So for my first show at the Western Canadians, we won, advancing me to the provincials, which I had no expectations. So I was a middleweight again. I think I weighed about 176 pounds. So I was up 10 pounds from the year before. And keep in mind, I did have a coach with a little bit more knowledge, and we were actually eating a lot of food right into the show. So I wasn't killing myself. And there was only 3 people in my division. So it wasn't the craziest class, but I still had won. So I'm like, okay, like back-to-back wins. This is cool. Where can I go from here? And so the guy who coached me the first time is like, I would do this show again and just try and pack on some more size. And me trying to rise to the top as fast as I can, I say, well, I'm qualified for nationals. Why wouldn't I go at nationals? So I took the year off and competed at nationals the following summer. And that was 2012, where Antoine and Greg Doucette won the pro card. And that was the craziest class I've ever been in. I think there's like 36 guys in the light heavyweight division. And again, no expectations. I knew I was going in and just like, I wanted to see where I stood. And I actually placed 9th. So I was extremely happy with that. And so by not clinching top 5, that brought me back down to having to requalify. So by going to the provincials in 2013, everybody's like, oh, great, Didoshak's coming back. So I won the light heavyweights again, and I advanced to nationals, which was in Laval, Quebec, I believe. And that was probably one of my worst showings, 14th, 15th out of maybe 18 guys. So that was a bit of an eye opener for me. But not once did I say like, that's it, I'm done. I just said, okay, back to the drawing board. We went back to provincials again, and I was looking fantastic a couple days out, and over diuretics and turned into a prune. And I didn't even get top 5 when, like, leading up to the show, everybody's like, okay, like Didoshak's at his best again. Everybody's competing for second. So I didn't even get top 5. So that actually brought me back down to a regional show. So I had to start from square one again. So 2016, I think that was 2015, I had to go to Fort St. John, which is a local show down here. I won that show, not the whole show, sorry. I won my weight class. I lost in the overalls to super heavy. And from there, just, I knew going into that show, like, hey, you should be doing some damage here. You're back down at a level 1 show. This is just like a warm up before we go back to provincials. So I won my class there. Provincials, I won my class. And at that point, I actually hired Chris Aceto, and we went to the Canadians in Edmonton, where we took 3rd to Dura and Adolphe. So that was like the most competitive lineup that I've been in a long time. And I was pretty fired up. Okay, like I'm standing with 2 amazing competitors. So I started dating this girl, and she said, I'm going to do the Ben Weider. And because I've only been doing nationals and regional shows, I had no clue what the show was. I just said, sweet, let's do it. I'm in. And me and Dura both actually headed to that show, and I actually won my weight class. Which, what year was that? 2017, I think. I won my weight class. And there was 2 cards being handed out that show. Unfortunately, I didn't get it. And I wasn't bummed. I was just excited, like, okay, I'm back where I belong. I believe I'm a 1-2 guy. So from there, we went to the Vancouver Pro-Am, I believe, where we placed 2nd in the heavyweights. We actually moved up again. So the guy who beat me actually ended up going pro. It always happens with the guy who beats me in the overall ends up getting a card. So I know I'm close. So I'm not going to slow down. I'm not going to like take my foot off the gas. It's just, what show can we do next? So we headed to Toronto after that. And I placed 4th. Wasn't my best showing, but I was still working with Chris at the time. And at that point, I felt like I needed a change. I just kept doing pro qualifiers after that. So the following year, we did the Vancouver show with Dorian, where we won. We actually lost to Cody Drobot in the overalls. And some people might say that was like the craziest overall battle the Van Pro has ever had. So that was like, I had a lot of fun that show, especially competing with friends. And from there, we went to nationals in October, back to Toronto, where I placed 1st again in the light heavyweight division. So if you realize, I was a heavyweight a couple of years ago, super full looking, and then we came back down, just going for conditioning, staying at the top of the heavyweight or light heavyweight class. and ended up winning that class. And I lost to Aaron Goley in the overalls. So that was a tough loss. I mean, standing beside somebody who's got 100 pounds on you, anybody's going to look small. So that was a tough pill to swallow for me. But I picked up, we moved on, and we decided to do Toronto. Which one was it? From there, I think we started prepping with Ron Partlow, who is my business partner with the gym. And that was just in December last year where we finally conquered the card. And that was a tough prep. I contacted him at, I think I was 10 weeks out. I needed some help, and he was happy to take over. So we suffered, man. I've never suffered that hard in my life. But when I signed on with him, he kind of pulled me aside and told him what I was doing, where I was. And he's like, well, I can't make you any promises. And I just kind of said, stop right there. Like, I've been knocking on this door. Like, you don't have to promise me anything, but like, I'm going to the show to win. Like, that's it. I'm not coming first or second anymore. I don't want to lose in the overalls by like split points. I want to be able to walk out and be like, holy shit, like, it's over. So we did that.
Yeah, yes, you did. Now I want to ask you, let's talk about your win in terms of earning your IFBB Pro card. And then I want to talk about you that I believe the next day you competed in the pro division, correct? And you got fourth. So yeah, let's talk about you. I want to kind of get into the feelings, the emotions, like just what was it like for you? I mean, your first competition was 2010 and this was 2021. So literally 11 years of competing and grinding and knocking on the door, which I love it. I mean, obviously there's the Phil Heath out there, right? They get their pro card pretty quick and they're off to the races. But the reality is when you choose bodybuilding or bodybuilding chooses you, however you kind of look at it, for most people in terms of pursuing their IFBB Pro card, it doesn't happen overnight. So I love that you had to grind it out because that's the reality for most people. So let's talk about some stuff in terms of when you turned pro and then that first pro show. And then I want to talk about some of the coaching stuff. But Steven, what were after 11 years of competing, I mean, when you knew you got that IFBB Pro card last year, I mean, what was going on inside? What were the feelings? What were the emotions? Like, talk to us about that, please.
So the night before that show, Ron, myself, Chantel, my business partner, Corey at the time, they were all there. And so we were all in the room. Ron was there checking me out, and he would just like, he's like, dude, you look crazy. Like, I'm really excited. And so everybody left the room. I ate, I went to bed, I woke up, and the show's starting early. So me and Ron are posing in the room early. Chantel's downstairs with my parents and everybody. They're going to get seats. And I'm sitting there, and Ron's like, are you ready? And I'm like taking a couple deep breaths, and he's like, I'm not much of a storyteller, but he starts telling me a story, and I started tearing up a little bit, and I'm like trying to like hide it from like I don't want this guy to think I'm a pussy. But it's just because before I left that room, I knew what was going to happen downstairs. I had a lot of emotions built up, like 11 years. And he's like, let's go finish this. He's like, I came here for one thing. Let's go do this. So he's like, put some music in your ears, wipe off your face. Let's go. So we walked down there. I put the music in my ears. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm just head down, walk to the backstage. And we're chilling back there, and the show goes as planned. So we won. I had a bit of an emotional cry with my parents after, and it was just like tears of joy. I've never worked so hard for so long. And standing on that line, waiting for them to hear my number. I mean, my past years, I was standing on that line, and I was like, could you imagine if they called my number versus like standing there and saying like, it's happening. I just knew everything had gone the way it was supposed to go. So everything went well. Everybody's taking their pictures after. And Dorian had the HD booth there. He pulled me aside and he says, "Are you going to compete tomorrow?" And I said, "Yes, absolutely. I already talked with Ron. That's the game plan. That was the game plan before I flew out. As long as I was allowed to hop in." And he says, "Dude," he's like, "you could win this thing." He's like, "You just stand out. You have an incredible physique. Eat some food, relax. Your cortisol levels are done. You have no expectations. The stress is over. Go get some sleep. Do your thing." So me and Ron went upstairs and we mapped out the meals for the remainder of the day. And I was still losing weight. I was like 197, 196, 197. So we woke up the next morning. I think we were 198 pounds. And like I said, I had no expectations going into this. I mean, obviously everybody wants to win, and so do I. That's always been my mentality. But going into my first pro show, I'm still like running off a high. So I just went out there, had an amazing time. All the pro athletes back there were just like congratulating me and telling me how tremendous of a physique I have. And when we were out there and they started calling my name and shuffling me in, I said, "Okay, fifth," shuffling me in. "Okay, maybe fourth, maybe third." So I said, "Okay, like this is where I belong. Like this just feels right." So the fact I got fourth in my first pro show, I couldn't be any happier. I had a great experience with great people that whole weekend.
And it all happened in Canada. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, right?
I've only ever competed in Canada. I've never left.
Wow, cool. Now, let's before we kind of get into the future of you competing, I want to talk about coaching just for a little bit. Obviously, you've worked with some of the best coaches in the business, starting with Chris Aceto. Now, how did you kind of reach out to Chris? How did you initially connect with him and get him to actually coach you?
So believe it or not, Ron Partlow used to work with him, and they're really good friends. And I had heard from somebody in the gym that Ron spoke highly of me to Chris, and Chris was kind of looking for a guy. And being the amateurs of knocking on the door for the last couple of years, I said, "You know what? It's time for me just to like go get the best and see what we can do." So I sent him an email. I sent him my pictures, and he said, "Okay, let's start." So that was it. That was like I would send him pictures and I don't even know where he was in the world, but I would have a response like that. It was crazy. But I had a lot of fun. I learned so much from Chris. He's a great guy.
Yeah, I've had Ron Partlow has actually been a guest on the podcast, and a slew of other people who've had Chris as their coach, and some of them obviously have just like Ron have built just a friendship over the years. And I've heard some really great Chris stories. What do you feel like, Steven, in terms of working with Chris for the time that you did? What did he kind of like bring to the table for you, or how did he get you to think different, or how did he help you become a better athlete in terms of bodybuilder? Like, what was kind of that one thing that kind of like he helped you go to that next level with in terms of an athlete as a bodybuilder?
I think just overall how he was structuring things. I mean, the diets were very simple. It was very black and white. But I just learned how to, I mean, we pushed food. I've always been scared to eat. Like, so he was telling me like, cheat with this, have a pizza here, because once you send me a plan, I'm only going to do what's on that plan. If there's no Five Guys or cheats in bold on this day, I'm not going to do it. I'm very like structured. You tell me what to do, I'm going to do it. So he learned that after a while, because Ron and Corey at the gym, they were going for lunch one day. And I actually think I was like full off season, like one meal off menu isn't going to hurt you. So Ron's like, we're going to go across the street to Iron Bowl and get some sushi or teriyaki bowl or something like that. And I said, I'll just bring my food. That food's not on my menu. And he was like, what are you talking about? It's like clean food. He's like, what's your pre-workout meal? And it was like beef and rice. And so I said, I'll just bring my meal over and we'll eat and have a meeting. And I think he sent Chris a message shortly after that. He's like, hey, thanks for screwing up our lunch meeting with the guys. Steven wouldn't veer off his menu because you have a meeting, this. And he actually responded back saying, that kid eats too damn clean. I have to force him to eat some shit. So at that point, he actually learned, okay, if I need Steven to cheat, I need to still Steven when to cheat, what to cheat with, because I've just never been someone who falls off plan.
Love that, man.
So,
that's super cool. Now, I want to get into a business talk a little bit. We're kind of at the point where we talked about, you reached out to Ron like 10 weeks out for your pro card. And obviously you've been connected with Ron for a while, but I would love to hear, how did you first meet Ron? And then I want to talk about West Coast Iron and how did you guys kind of come to put your heads together? I know there's some other guys that have been involved with it, but how did you guys kind of all come together and open up West Coast Iron? So how did you originally meet Ron? And then how did West Coast Iron come to be?
So I met Ron. So West Coast Iron actually used to be a gym called X Club. It was owned by a previous owner that actually had passed. So Ron had moved here shortly, and that was his home gym. That was one of my home gyms. So we knew of each other from training in the gym, but I still really didn't know Ron Partlow. And the owner had passed. And so us being regulars in the gym, we kind of pooled together saying, you know what, like, we don't want to lose this gym. He had no family, so there was nothing to really fall back on. So we were in touch with lawyers and what to do and what we could do. So all we could really do was keep the doors open until the money ran out, which didn't last very long. And we got together at a supplement store down the street that one of our partners owned. And I introduced myself to Ron and we kind of said, so are we going to own a gym together? And we were talking to lawyers, and by the time all that kind of fuzzled out, the gym closed. It ran out of money. We did a massive renovation. There was 5 of us, all friends. So Ron was like the new face in the group, which was great because Ron has traveled the world visiting gyms, and there couldn't be a better partner for us to be with. So he brings so much to the table. We're very lucky to have somebody like him in there. So we all used to own supplement stores within the area. So that's why we were all so close. So there came a point where I had the gym, I had a supplement store, I was working for a Shock Cable, and I was coaching people for a company at the time. So I had to part ways with my supplement store. I had sold that because I was just running way too thin. I got rid of the coaching team I was with. So I was just Shaw Cable and the gym. So just the 2 jobs. And it was not easy transitioning from the previous gym to what it is now. There's a lot of paperwork and we didn't know if it was going to go through or not, but we all needed a gym to train at. And the gym that was their X Club was an amazing spot. It was already constructed as a gym. So we kind of took it over and revamped it and named it West Coast Iron. And we never looked back. It's been one of the coolest things I've ever done.
Now, when did West Coast Iron like officially come to be in terms of like when you guys opened the doors for yourselves? Was it in 2020 or right before?
No, it was October 2017.
Oh, okay.
So while I was competing at the Weeder show, they actually had the grand opening. So when I came back, it was to come back and seeing the gym open full of people. It was the coolest feeling. I said, okay, like, this is good. Things are rolling.
Now I've heard Ron on his podcast and probably some other podcasts talk about kind of picking equipment and getting the right quote unquote equipment in there. Did you kind of have a say on getting some of that equipment in there? Or was that more Ron and some of the other guys? What did that process look like?
Between 5 people, it was not easy. But we all have a say in everything. Everything was decided as a team. There was never anything done individually. So I got to give Ron credit because he definitely knows his machines. He's got his contacts. He sourced out everything for us. So we've even been in touch with Dorian and the guys in Toronto with bringing in the Panada machines from Italy. We've got some machines from Spain, a lot of Atlantis pieces. So as time goes on, we're still bringing pieces in one by one. So we're always looking for ways to improve the gym and make the members happy. For
sure. Now, what's I'm going to ask you this because this is always kind of fun. I own a gym myself, but let's take like an old, like a hammer strength, like more of an old school brand. Okay. And then let's take like a new school brand, like Prime or something like that. Do you have like an old school brand that's kind of like your go-to overall? And then do you have like a new school brand that's your go-to? Like what would that be for you specifically, Steven?
I still love the hammer strength machines. To this day, I don't feel the machines are made like they were. So the hammer strength machines, I use every single piece in the gym, from a carry-in, hammer strength, Panada, free weights, barbells. We have so much machine and a variety of machines that if something's taken, I don't mind hopping on another machine. Like I can make do with that.
Very cool. Is there a new school brand that you kind of like?
I like the Atlantis machines. I just find I fit well in them. They're smooth. They're great.
Very cool. Very cool. Now is Atlantis, now are they from the States or are they from somewhere else?
I think they're in Montreal. They got
they're Canadian
warehouse there. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. Very cool. All right. So I want to kind of transition. We're going to start wrapping up here. We've been going for almost 50 minutes. I want to talk about what your plans are in terms of competing in the future. So if you don't mind sharing with us, what's your next show? What does all that look like?
So we are currently 11 weeks out. We are going to head to Tampa, and then the following weekend there's Dallas. So okay. I've never competed in the States. I would have loved to do Toronto, keeping in Canada, but just with the previous show and cleaning out and making sure all my numbers and blood work was good, we just kind of kept going in the off season. So these 2 shows, I felt it was good because they were back-to-back weekends. So I said, you know what, let's go for it and see. So I know these are not smaller shows. These are very popular shows with top contenders. So I've never done an easy show. So let's see what happens.
100%, man. No, it's you're a pro. So, throw your hat in the ring, so to speak. Now, what is like, I want you to be real with us now. Like when you are thinking about Tampa and Dallas, are you going there to win? Are you going there to get top 3? Are you planning on stepping on the Olympia stage this year? Like, what is your goal that you're thinking about all the time? If you don't mind sharing with us, I want you to be bold with us. All right. Be real.
All right. Well, if you're competing for a show with no expectations, I feel you've already lost. So I'm sure most of these guys are going to win. I myself am going to win. That's just always how I've been going into every show. I'd be happy with top 5, but I want to win because the ultimate goal for me is to be on the Olympia stage. Whether it's this year, next year, I'm not getting any younger. So I really want to push here and see what we can do in these shows coming up.
Love it. Now, what is your ultimate long-term bodybuilding goal? Like what when you're all done competing, what's that number one goal that you want to accomplish as a IFBB pro?
I want to be a 212 champion.
Perfect. I love it, man. And do you have like a time frame that you would like to see that come to fruition before you're done competing?
I've always said by the time I'm 40, I would like to wrap things up, but as long as my health is good and I'm enjoying everything and having fun. I mean, Dexter did it for years.
Yeah. Till like 50 plus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I got plans. I'd like to have a family and have a little one. So I think 40 would be pushing it for me. But like I said, if my health is there and I'm still having a blast doing this, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah. Cool, man. I want to ask you, since we're on that topic of health, Stephen, and that's kind of been a big topic here lately within the bodybuilding community. You've been competing for a lot of years. How have you been able to kind of keep your, yourself healthy in terms of just like, your outward body, but also kind of the internals? Is there anything that maybe some advice or some wisdom that you can share with us just kind of in terms of health on the outside and the inside?
Yeah, just getting blood work done regularly. I know there's a lot of people that are kind of scared because maybe they're worried what's going to come back, but if you don't do it, you're not going to know. And it's better to find out earlier than when it's too late. Take your vitamins, stay healthy. I know we all look good on the inside, but we need to ensure that we're just as healthy on the inside. So I do blood work as often as I can. I share with my coach. I share with my doctor. My doctor's on board with what I'm doing. So he's there for all the knowledge that I need if something might be off, what we can do, and donating blood. I go above and beyond. I mean, we have one body, right? And I know we really push the envelope, but I need to ensure that my health is always in check.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of like body work, recovery type stuff, do you go to like a chiropractor? Do you get deep tissue massage? Do you do anything like that to kind of keep that body functioning the way you want as a bodybuilding athlete?
I do. I see a massage therapist every single week when I'm in prep. And as I'm in the off season, maybe every other week. Chiropractor, I've never been to a chiropractor, but I think I got to go soon. I need to get realigned, but I have great medical benefits, so I take advantage of everything. Naturopath, with all my blood work, massage therapist, acupuncture, everything.
Awesome. Love that. All right. So just kind of wrapping things up here. I kind of like to usually ask all my guests this question, but what do you feel, Stephen, like bodybuilding has given you, or what do you feel like bodybuilding has taught you?
I'm going to say this has given me an opportunity to do what I want to do. I know you have coaches and stuff, but there's nobody that can do the work other than myself. So really believing in myself, having a purpose in life. I think the biggest thing for me is, especially because I was so shy and maybe intimidated to do certain things, that I have found something I do truly love and enjoy doing, that I live a very, I guess I'm grateful for anything that I can do in life today, being able to own a gym, bodybuild, everything has evolved around what I love to do. So I can thank bodybuilding for that.
And it doesn't really get much better than that in life, when you can live out your passion, make a living from your passion, and kind of do what you love every day, right? Like, I mean, that's pretty awesome, right?
It is. And my coach even had to remind me that last week. I had a rough week last week, and he kind of laid it out on the table. He's like, look, man, he's like, you make good money. You're not outside working in the rain. You're surrounded by amazing people in the gym that all believe in me. Like, we got about 1,600 members, and they all talk very highly of me and push me and great words of encouragement. So I've surrounded myself with some amazing people in my life, and I'm lucky and grateful for that.
100%. Now, I do want to ask you, this had to be really cool. You brought up Jay Cutler earlier, but you were, after you got your pro card, I believe it was, you were on JTV there in Vegas. I mean, that had to be a pretty surreal moment, right? And talk to us about that. What was that like for you, and what was that experience?
The experience was cool because I actually had no idea this was going to happen. Corey, my business partner at the gym, and I were flying out to Vegas because Ron was actually doing a mutant on a mission. And every time Ron does this, me and Corey say, oh, we should go and make sure he's okay. It's an excuse for us to go away. So he was doing his thing, and Corey and I did our thing. And Dorian sent me a message. He's like, are you heading to Vegas? I said, yeah. He's like, okay, give me a minute. And so the plane's about to take off, and I get a message saying, send me the dates you're there till. I'm going to try and set you up with JTV. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, Jay Cutler? So unfortunately, I left the day early while Jay was in Miami, I think. But Dorian set this all up, man. And huge thank you to Dorian. He's always, even though we're not working together as a coach anymore, we've actually grown together closer as friends. I am with the HD crew. So I'm very lucky to have Dorian in my corner still as a friend and a supporter. So he's the one who made it all happen. But that was like, I had anxiety all day. And the guys were like, dude, you're fine. Just relax. Like, they want to see you. So like, just have fun with it. But that was really cool, man. Like, being a part of that channel.
For sure. Yeah. No, and you did great. And it had to have been a pretty surreal moment. So you brought up Dorian, brought up HD. I've had a lot of the Team HD guys on the podcast, Antoine and so forth, Quentin. Why don't you talk about HD? Because it seems like, I mean, just it seems like it's a family, right? I mean, it is. But why don't you talk about what HD, Team HD, being a part of that brand, that supplement company means to you, and if you want to give any shout outs or any like codes or anything like that, feel free.
Yeah, I joined on with HD the day they were actually launched. I was working with Dorian at the time, and he said, I got this line that's coming out. I'd like to be a part of it. And I was super happy. I said, okay, cool. And I knew, working with Dorian, his protocols and how anal he is with like health and vitamins. So I knew exactly what was going to be put into these products. And I was like, sign me up. Like, I'm all in for this. So I've watched that brand grow. I mean, they're still coming out with new SKUs to today's date. So I'm very lucky to be a part of such an amazing group of people. Like you said, it's a family. So when I do go to Toronto, and I try and go as often as I can, it's literally a second home to me. And getting my pro card in Toronto with all of them there, it couldn't have been any better. I had my business partners, my family, all the HD guys. It was like the perfect movie.
Right. You couldn't have made it any better, right?
Yeah.
Do you have what's kind of some of the products from HD that you are kind of your go-tos, or some of your favorite type of protein? Any favorites off the top of your mind?
I think the best thing about HD Muscle is I use every single one of their products multiple times a day. And I've actually never been a part of a company that I've actually been able to do that. Such as their vitamin, their kidney care, the liver care, their EAAs, their protein. I like the maple waffle. It is my favorite. So if you guys want to support and save some money, I do have a code, which is Dido, DIDO. And that will save you guys 10% over purchases over 99 bucks.
Perfect. Awesome. Steven, I want to just, again, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to chop it up with me. If you have any final thoughts, any final words that you kind of want to leave with all of us, I'm going to kind of give you that opportunity. Any shout outs, I want you to make sure you give us your Instagram so we can connect with you there. But any final thoughts, any final words, any shout outs, the platform's yours, and then I'll do the outro and that'll be a wrap. Okay.
Sounds good. I just want to thank everybody for continuing to follow me through my social media and my journey with the fitness industry. I know I'm quiet and not super active on social media, but everything you guys do say in the comments and stuff like that, I do read them, sometimes multiple times over and over. So I also want to thank you for, I know you contacted me the week after I won my pro card, and I am a quiet guy, so this is hard for me, but I guess the more I do them, the easier it's going to get. So I want to thank you for being patient and taking the time to get me back on here.
Yeah, no, you're very welcome. And I think you said before we started, this was your first podcast, and it wasn't too bad. I just tell people, I'm like, just two dudes talking bodybuilding life. So it wasn't bad, right?
No, it was great.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you're very welcome, Steven. Thank you again. All of you who are tuning in to another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, I just want to say thank you so much to you, because if it wasn't for you, the podcast wouldn't exist. A couple just quick things here as we wrap up this awesome conversation with Steven today. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. If you're not listening to this on YouTube, go to YouTube, hit the subscribe button. That's really important, because I release all of these episodes first on YouTube, and then I distribute them to iTunes and the other podcast platforms. And if you aren't a YouTube person and it's just easier for you or better for you to listen some other way, we are on iTunes. We are on some of the more popular podcast platforms. So if YouTube's not your jam, or it's easier for you to listen another way, just find your favorite podcast platform, iTunes, Castbox, what have you. And we're on there as well. And then I just, one last favor I'd ask of all of you: take this episode with Steven, share it on your Instagram stories, please. Make sure you tag Steven, make sure you tag Behind the Muscle, so that we know that you listened specifically to this episode and found great value in it, which I know you did. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.